We are live and welcome to the Baltimore SharePoint Users Group monthly meeting. And so what I'm going to do is share my screen here and walk through the introductory slides about the group, who we are, what we do, and what makes us unique after all these years. And so let's get into this. Go into present mode. And so, welcome to the July edition of the Baltimore SharePoint Users Group. I'm Shadidi Laser. I'm the co-founder of this fine institution and also the acting president of the group. And so, what is Baltimore SharePoint Users Group in a world of power platforms and Microsoft 365 and many tools and many technologies that come together? What is our focus these days? And so we are Maryland, the great state of Maryland's longest running Microsoft focused community learning institution. And to date, we've had over 4,500 Microsoft professionals trained and certified either through resources that were provided by training companies or through referrals to other training programs as well. And so very proud of our progress, our growth and consistency. And so within our membership, there have been individuals who have gone on to start their own practices. I think what makes it so, let's say, sentimental to me is when someone, whether they were laid off from a full-time job or they just decided to take ownership of their career and they decide to launch their practice and they become successful to the point where they say, you know what? We're going to come back and actually sponsor, SharePoint Saturday Baltimore. That's the ultimate full circle moment. And so I'm very proud of the connections, the resources within our group. And so 21 Microsoft practices have been launched within our members and several Microsoft Gold partners, so on and so forth. And so on we go. Special thanks to ProObject. Now, in our in-person days, ProObject was our location sponsor, meaning every third Thursday of the month, we would meet at the ProObject offices. And they have continued to support us as we've been virtual for quite some time. We will come back to in-person at some point. But at this point, until further notice, we will be virtual, kind of build up that global audience a bit and see what we can do there. And so Ted Staley is the gentleman who is within this email address, TM Staley. And so if you have any career needs, meaning possibly your contract is coming to an end or you're looking for a more permanent solution, ProObject is one of the top companies in Maryland to work for. And so special thanks to Ted and ProObject. Ted, for many, many, many years, stayed after work every third Thursday to handle the logistics, make sure our projector was working, make sure that we were able to connect to Wi-Fi. We need a hardwired connection. Ted has always been there. Just thinking, wow, it's been a while since I've had to worry about a projector. And so special thanks to you, Ted, and ProObject. Okay. So in terms of community news and events, Microsoft Inspire has just wrapped up today, actually. But what I would like you to do is go to the URL below the Microsoft Inspire 2023 text and take a look at the on-demand keynotes. I love what Microsoft has been doing in terms of virtual and hybrid events. They have added a touch of additional high quality polish to their video strategy. And so there's several keynote presentations and demos on the home page or the landing page that I've shared with you. And so get up to speed on Microsoft Inspire. Now, Microsoft Inspire is dedicated to news, notes, technology for Microsoft partners. And so, as I mentioned in the first two slides, we've had many practices launched within our group, and many of those practices have gone on to become full-fledged Microsoft partners. In my journey as a Microsoft partner, I can vouch that there's a wealth of resources that will help you. Even if you're a professional and just looking to learn more, is a great resource for training and additional guidance on your ascent to the top of the mountain. And so, moving along here. Our featured session. Now, this featured speaker is a friend of the program here, meaning recurring featured speaker, not only at our Baltimore SharePoint user group monthly meetings, but also he's hopped on the plane and come all the way to Maryland to deliver his magic and technical prowess and leadership to our members through our one-day conference, which is known as a SharePoint Saturday Baltimore. Upcoming date is pending for that event. Our audience loves his delivery, his preparation, and this is more or less checking in to see what this gentleman is up to. And so this presenter is a 7-time published author, not only with, let's say, technical books, but also in the path of certification. And his blog is over 2 million views and hits on mostly Microsoft-focused materials, an ongoing resource of knowledge, skills, and abilities. I bring to you Nate the Great Chamberlain. Now, as we welcome Nate to the stage, I'm going to be in the background, Nate, moderating the Q&A. So if I will stop at specific points to if any questions come up. So the floor is yours.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm trying to start my video. Can you let me do that real quick?
Okay, let me see here. Give it about 5 seconds.
Perfect. There we go. Thank you so much. All right, and thanks for having me, Shadid. I'm really happy to be back here. Baltimore SharePoint User Group has a special place in my heart, as Shadid said, because I once went out there and I got to meet everybody in person, and I've kind of been, I don't know, stuck on them, I guess, for a few years. My last time speaking here was in April of 2022, so it's good to be back. I hope to make it a regular thing, and it's great to be able to connect with you on a somewhat regular basis. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. There we go, wonderful. And as Shadid said, what we're looking at today are approvals in Microsoft Teams. And what I'm focused on is really kind of that user experience. I'll talk a little bit about the admin experience as well, because it's important to understand the whole stack, basically, or all the layers that are involved in this app. But really what I want you to take away from this is how accessible it is these days to create an approval process, starting with that form, but then also the automated approval side of it, where people are actually indicating whether or not that form can move forward in a process or not. So let's move ahead here with a little bit more about me, right? Now, I don't want to spend too much time here. I've already got a great introduction, so thank you for that. But if you do want to connect with me, you can go to natechamberlain.com. You'll find all of my other stuff here and there. All right, so let's get right into approvals. Basically, we're dividing the time here into mostly approvals, and we'll do demo. I'm not a very slide-heavy person. If you've attended my sessions before, you may remember that I love to show you the actual environment so you can see all of the hiccups along the way. You can see what to watch out for, and you see absolutely every step that goes into it. And it's exciting to be able to present a topic to you where you do get to see an entire build from start to finish within, I think we're at about 55 minutes or so. So we will do that for the most of the time. And then at the very end, it's one thing to build the solution, but then how do you make it successful? How do you get people to get on board with you and actually make it do something? Because I think we've all kind of been in that situation where someone that we work with or some department that we work with launches a product or launches a solution and they say, best of luck. We don't want to do that. We don't want to deploy some new approval process, push it out there, and then say, good luck, everybody. So we'll focus a little bit on that human side of this technical topic too. All right, so starting with approvals, again, just a few slides, then you're going to see this start to finish being built. So with the approvals app in Microsoft Teams that you're about to see, we're able to request and respond to approvals. We're seeing this trend in Microsoft Teams where we can pretty much do everything these days from Microsoft Teams. We're bringing SharePoint experiences into Microsoft Teams. We're bringing approvals start to finish from the build through the actual process in Microsoft Teams. We're using Forms and Excel and Word and all of the other Microsoft 365 desktop apps now embedded with co-authoring and all the features we love right inside of Teams. And the whole idea behind that, I'm not sure if this is a new concept for anybody anymore because it's such a staple these days, but it's the whole idea of reducing that context switching. And all that means is we're trying to reduce how many times you have to switch windows or, kind of shuffle the things that you have going on in your digital landscape, just kind of keeping that to a minimum. And if we can keep our chat and our Teams and all of that navigation on the left-hand side there, while on the right side, we're able to go from this conversation to that project to this document and then straight back into all of our chat and activity notifications, then we have less stress, right? We're able to focus on our work and keep that flow going smoothly. Okay, and then with approvals, we're also able to templatize things. Think about how inconsistent some of the forms you currently have in your organization may be and how different departments handle approval processes differently. This person may design their form in a landscape. The other person may do it in portrait. This person may require wet signatures. This one just needs a checkbox. It's not consistent. And for users, especially new people to your organization, that can come off as a little bit jarring, right? So this app, this really simple app, honestly, in Microsoft Teams helps us to standardize and to make things more recognizable from one team to another. And the last piece that I want to point out here before we get into it is that this approvals app isn't just the place where we go to request something or to respond to something, but it's also kind of a dashboard. It gives us this landing page, if you will, where we can go and see the status of everything we've received and everything we've requested. All right, and then just some scenarios to get you thinking, because I can certainly show you one form and one approval process and get some ideas going on that one topic. But as I'm doing that, I want you to be thinking about what applies to you. What kind of things do you have going on in your organization or in your department that require approval or somebody else's eyes on a process before it moves forward? So for some of you, that may just be document approval. You've drafted something, you've gotten it ready to go, and you're pushing it through some levels of approval before it can be pushed out to the whole organization, or maybe it's even a public document like a news release. And then a team or channel request. This is a popular one where someone requests a team, and then we need maybe IT's approval or the chief information and security officer, someone along those lines, or maybe just someone's supervisor to say, sure, that sounds like a great team. We do need that. Move ahead. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of these to you, but you can kind of just browse the list real quick and see what jumps out at you. Do you work in education and you work with field trips and site visits? Do you work with print production and you have, stationery requests that come in that need review before they actually go to print? All kinds of different things there. By the way, I will share these slides at the end, so don't worry about missing any text as I move on here. All right, so approval templates demo. We're just about to get into it. One more note before we do go in. Team owners and admins, so those words are very important here. Team owners and teams admins can create custom shared templates. Okay, those reusable things that you can use throughout an entire team or throughout the entire organization. Okay, and then owners, team owners can create and publish for their team, and the admins can create for org-wide. Okay, so as you're seeing me do this, you may wonder what kind of rules I have. I'm going to do my best to remind you of the rule that I'm using at that time, so you can kind of see what that user's or that role's experience resembles. All right, so let me get out of my slides here, and we're going to pull up Teams. And to give you some context here, this is a user named Megan Bowen. She works for a company called Contoso Electronics. And right now she's on the BSpug channel, the coolest channel in the whole organization, inside of a team called Project ABC. It's a very original name. So we're in a channel within a team. And right now, Megan, who just happens to be an owner of this particular team, would like to kind of standardize some approval process that she has. So I want to show you kind of the stumble approach to approvals. And what I mean by that is one of your users just randomly in your organization finds that approval button and they're like, ooh, what can I do with this? So sometimes the first time people encounter the approvals app, it's when they're in a channel, they're in a new conversation, and they see this little icon down at the bottom. And I know that's small, so I apologize, but it's like a rotating arrow with a check mark in the center. And they click on that and they're like, ooh, approvals. What can this do? How can this help me? All right, there we go. So when it first comes up, we can see, okay, I've got a basic request. Looks like I can integrate with third-party services. So Adobe Sign and DocuSign if I have those. By the way, that does cost extra money if you want to get licenses for those other companies within these approval processes. And then templates and approvals. Okay, let's start with basic, then we'll get into templates. So I'm going to go to the basic request. And my name of my request that I'm going to post to my BSpug channel is going to be a user group session idea. There we go. The approver is going to be one of my coworkers. If I can figure out who's in this team with me. Patty, maybe someone. There we go. Patty's in this team with me. So I'm going to require Patty to approve this user group session idea. And notice I can add additional people. I could add more. I'm not going to just for this first demo, but notice I can also specify the order here. Now we'll come back to that. All right, so Patty's going to approve this. The priority for this one, let's say it's important because the user group is next week. Okay, additional details. I'll say that Shadid is going to speak about Maryland's technological landscape. Okay, something like that. I might add an attachment. Maybe it's a resume. Maybe it's a kind of a session, what would you call it, briefing or something, maybe some handouts or a guide. And then I click on send. My approval request is being created. All right, now the first time a user like Megan uses approvals, because she kind of stumbled into it, it says, it looks like you haven't used it in this conversation before. So by adding approvals, you're agreeing to the blah, 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 and I click on continue. Now I could read those and you probably should read those, but I'm just gonna plow right through that. All right, now the experience for everybody in Megan's team is they all can see this approval request that was posted in this channel because it's no different than if she had just posted a message and said, hey, Patty, can we do this for our next user group? In a way, it's a message or a post in a channel conversation, but we've formalized it a little bit. Now there's an actual request that's tracked in the approvals app, and Patty is going to get that request to come in here and approve it. And I'll come back to the approver side later. But for now, Megan submitted a request. All of her teammates can see it. Now, something Adele could do, or actually I think it's Miriam who I'm partnering with today, is she can go to that same channel. So this is a different user now named Miriam, and she sees this post. Sorry, I've got all these helpful dialogues that come up. But maybe what some of the teammates do in this case is they thumbs up it and they reply and they say, let's see, Shadid delivers great sessions. This is exciting. You know, it gives them that opportunity to chime in and to give their 2 cents about that proposal. Now, some of you are wondering, well, I don't want everybody to see my reimbursement request. So we'll get to that. This is more of the collaboration focus right now. All right, let's go back to Megan. Miriam saw that, she reacted. Let's go back to Megan's experience. Now, Megan, maybe goes through this, gets it approved, and they move on with their lives. But now that she's used it in this way, she says, how can I take this to the next level? How can I create a specific user group session request form that everybody on my team can use on a regular basis, right? How can I give it some structure? So remember, Megan is an owner of Project ABC, which gives her the ability to create that template for this team. Now, to do that, what Megan's going to do is go to a completely different space. Instead of one channel in a specific team, she's going to go to the Approvals app, which is just a standalone app. If you go over to your left-hand side and search for Approvals, or you can see Megan sees it right away at the top of her list. So she's going to go there. There we go. And for those of you who use Approvals a lot or who will use Approvals a lot, and if you are newer to Teams, you may notice that Approvals right now on Megan's navigation is italicized. So what she can do is she can right-click that and pin it, and that'll make it just standard font, not italics. And it means if she navigates to another app on the left here, it'll still be there. So it kind of keeps it around for more convenient access. I'll just show you real quick. If I were to leave the Approvals app and go to chat, there we go, it disappears. So then to get back to Approvals, I have to go back to this menu and go to Approvals again. So not great, right? So Megan is going to pin it. She intends to use this frequently. All right, so now that we've pinned Approvals, we can see that on my Approvals navigation node under Received, I don't have anything. Nobody's asked me to approve anything. I can also see at the top, and we'll come back to it, sent. Anything that I've sent, I can track here as well. So I don't have to remember, which channel was it that I posted that to, or which team was that a part of? I just have to remember, go to the Approvals app. Everything's there. Now, remember, Megan's scenario right now is she wants to templatize something her entire team can use. So down in the lower left-hand corner, as a team owner or as a team's admin, there's this Create or Manage Templates option. Interesting. Let's click on it. Now here in the template management screen, you can see I get a few ideas, like starting with popular templates, leave, business trips, working from home, or vehicle app. There's a lot more. I want to pause here though. I want to show you the user experience, like not the team owner, but just a regular member experience at this point, because there isn't one. So we'll come right back. But real quick, what does Miriam see if she tries to do the same thing as just a normal team member? All right, so Miriam is in the browser version of Teams. She's going to go to her left-hand navigation option and find the Approvals app. There we go. We'll go to Create or Manage Templates in the lower left-hand corner, but she gets a dialog that says only team owners and admins can create templates for request. Okay, so if you forgot what that Nate guy from Kansas City said about who can do what, go ahead and just try to click the link and it'll remind you that team owners and admins can create templates. Okay, so Miriam's out of luck. Let's go back to Megan. All right, hopefully nobody's getting whiplash from all this. But now we're the team owner again, we're Megan. And these four popular templates don't really fit the bill for me. Now, before we go to look at the rest of the templates that they have, I want to point out in the upper left-hand corner of this screen, when you're looking at template management, you can see everything you have the ability to create templates for. So Megan is not just the team owner of Project ABC where we started, she also has one called Project XYZ and product support that she is the owner of. So she could create a template for any one of those three teams. But we're going to stay here in Project ABC where I know the BSpug channel is. Okay, so we stay here and I'm going to go to View More. There we go. And I'm not going to read all these to you, but just kind of browse as I go through. We can see different categories like activity. So those of you, again, who maybe work with, maybe education could do field trips, or fundraising could be activity funds. I'm not actually sure what that's used for. Administration could be print requests, asset requests, all kinds of different things. Attendance, so those of you who work with a lot of shift swapping and things. Finance and order management. Okay, give me just a moment to look at those. Okay, great, and I'm going to go with a kind of generic one here, project request. Notice I could also start from scratch. If none of these fit the bill and I don't want to have to re-engineer something, I can just start from scratch. but I want you to see a template. So I'm going to go to project request. All right, now the shrewd eye among you might notice that this looks a little familiar. So keep that thought in mind. If you're feeling it, you're onto something. But this template that I chose, project request, has project name, start date, end date, project lead, project description, and notes. Okay, let's keep going. That's a good start. If I don't like that though, I can go back and pick a different one, but I do like that. So I'm going to click on next. Now notice, even though I started in project ABC, it's saying, are you sure this is where you want to do it? Just in case I did start from the wrong one. So project ABC is good. I click on done. And now I actually make my template. Everything I do from this point forward is specific to my team. So my template name, instead of project request, we're going to re-engineer this for maybe like a user group session event. So we're going to go with user group event request. There we go. Category, let's see if any of these fit. Activity, administration, attendance, finance, maybe activity. That's kind of an activity, right? And for my description, I'll say request a specific event for our user group to sponsor or host. There we go, a little bit of context. Now, just so you know, that description field is important. When someone goes to fill this out later, they're going to see the title, user group event request, when they go to initiate an approval process, and they also see that description. So if they're not sure what user group event request means, and to be honest, I'm not either, it's kind of vague, right? And I could do a better job on that. But with description, I clarify it, and I make sure when someone clicks it that they know exactly why they're filling it out or what it's going to lead to. All right, so I'm going to click on next. I've got my title and my description. Now I go into the fields. And remember, those of you who maybe looked at that before and you're like, that looks kind of familiar, it's going to be an even stronger feeling now. When I click on one of those fields that came with my template, what does this look like? You can just type it in the chat if you want. Let's see if I can pull that up here. What does this experience resemble? All right, not seeing any answers yet. That's okay. But this is actually Microsoft Forms. Those of you who've built any forms in Microsoft Forms, maybe a survey or a quiz, should see very familiar things here because it is the same technology on the back end powering this. Everything from the add new button to the options that we get with certain question types is Microsoft Forms. So with my project name, since that doesn't really apply to my use of this template, I'm going to rename that question to, let's say, session name, right? Or event name, maybe. Let's see, I did get a response here. Yep, Shadid, perfect. And so my session name is required. So I want to make sure I keep that marked there. And then I could, with a text field, make that short or long text. Let's keep going. So for my start date, I can just leave that alone. I think that applies to my form. So I'll leave it just like that. End date, same thing. I'm going to require it as well. Maybe it's the same date, start and end date, but if it's a multi-day conference, I want to make sure I leave that open so people can specify that. Okay, project lead. Who is the project lead? Now I want to answer a question that sometimes comes up here whenever you see a question that relates to a person. With the approvals app in Microsoft Teams, you can't use like a people field or a person field, whatever you want to call that. You'll notice that this person field question is actually just text. So as of right now, there is no Active Directory integration. It's just a text field. So we'll keep going and we'll hope for better things in the future there. Now, with our description, you can notice this is just another text field here, and it's long answer. So you can have a little bit more text in those. And the last one, same thing, notes, long answer. Now, I'm not renaming all the questions because that's pretty simple to do, but you get the idea, right? We can have different questions. Now, some of these in your templates may not apply to your need. So for example, maybe I don't need project description and notes. So I'm going to take out project description. I select it and I select the trash can. Now it's gone. I cleaned up my template. This is what I have left. Session name, start and end, who's the lead, and then notes about that session or event. Now, maybe there's something that wasn't represented in my template. So I can click add new, and then notice I can choose from 3 question types. Those of you who are avid Microsoft Forms users at this point are wondering, where's the rest? Because if you do build a form in Microsoft Forms, you'll remember that there are more question types like Likert and file attachment, and there's a rating, and there's a few more I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but these are the only three that you can use in the approvals app right now. So I don't know if that's changing in the future, but for right now, it's choice, text, and date. Now, this particular form doesn't have a choice field, so I'm going to show you that. We'll add a choice field. We'll say, what is the category of this event? Right, and then I'll say maybe this one is professional development. Maybe this one is team, what do you call it? Motivation, I don't know. I'm just gonna make up some words here. And then maybe we'll say community networking. Maybe we've got some different categories we're trying to fill or, evenly distribute our intentions. And I'm going to move that up a little bit too. All right, so we've got name, a choice field, right? And I didn't require that one. I could have just by turning on that toggle. Then I've got start date, end date, project lead, and notes. Cool. Let's keep going. I'll click on next. And then now with my workflow settings, this is where the real magic happens. Because so far, let's be honest, we have a form, name, and description, and we have some fields that we could have built in Microsoft Forms. Not so special, right? But this is what really sets this app apart from just using Microsoft Forms. So with my workflow settings, and let's pretend, I don't have Power Automate experience, and that kind of concept, that idea of building an automated workflow is intimidating. So I'm coming here with that kind of, outlook on these apps that we have, no pun intended. And I get to make some decisions here that are as simple as a toggle button. So first of all, do I want to require a file attachment? Okay, so my event request, probably not. If I did, I simply turn that on. Okay, now that's going to be useful for those of you who are thinking already, ooh, I want to use this for reimbursement requests. Yeah, you probably want people to attach documentation or their receipts, something like that. Those of you who are requiring session abstracts to be submitted, or maybe you're working in finance and you have different kind of contract requests or vendors that you're vetting and you need documentation for each of those, you would require that attachment. Now for the approvers, this is probably my favorite part. I can require responses in the assigned order. Why is it my favorite? Because it's the newest, which tells us that Microsoft is investing more time and energy into this application that we can expect, hopefully, even more growth in the future. So this is one of the newest additions where I can say I do want to require responses from multiple approvers in a very specific order. First, it has to be the level 1 or, tier 1, then tier 2, so on and so forth. And notice I can add up to 10 levels of approvals. Wow. First of all, that's a lot to manage, but also wow. So I'll do the first one without, and then we can come back and do one with. Now, if I just have maybe one approval, then notice my default option says let requester enter. That's odd. Let's think back for a second about Megan when she posted in the channel. She filled out her own name and she put just some general details in there. But do you remember she also got to say who was going to approve it? She typed in, well, she tried. I remember it was Adele, but she didn't work there and Isaiah wasn't in there. So Patty, she finally found Patty as someone who could approve. So maybe you don't want that, especially with your more formal processes like reimbursement requests. You don't want someone picking their friend to approve their reimbursement. So what are our other options? If I drop that down, notice I can specify approvers. And remember, my role in this context is a team owner. So the team owner comes here and specifies approvers for this process and says, this must be Isaiah. Oh, maybe that's right. He's not in this team. So Patty and Miriam. Okay, those two handle this process. Now, this time I put in 2 people, and notice what happened. Right underneath, as soon as I entered 2 people, it said, require a response from all recipients. That's not the case with this one. I just need either Miriam or Patty to say okay. Now, if I did leave that checked, I would be able to track the progress on my dashboard and see, oh, Miriam approved, but I'm still waiting on Patty. So as the requester, there's good transparency there so people can keep tabs on their own processes. But for this one, let's say either one will do. If Miriam's in, great. If Patty's in, great. And we move on. The other thing to note there is if we do it just like this and Patty approves, Miriam knows that Patty approved. When she goes to fill it out, it's going to say it's already taken care of. All right, next up, responses. So with responses, it's always approve or reject. That's it, just those two, approve or reject. But you can turn this on and you can say, instead of approve or reject, I want people to say, maybe choosing an option instead of rejection. Maybe I want them to choose which fund something comes out of. So fund A or fund B. Maybe I want it to be a color, right? Which color does this fall under? Is it a red category issue or is it a yellow, right? Something like that. So for this one, I won't do custom, but it's as simple as just saying yes, no, approve, reject, blue, yellow. Now I always get a question here too, so I'll go ahead and answer it. No, you can only do two options. You cannot add a third or fourth at this time. You may know that if you built an approval process in Power Automate, that you can add more than two. So if you do need to, if that's a requirement for your project, you'll have to build that in Power Automate at this time. So back to just our default approve and reject options. Last field here, comments required. I'll go ahead and turn that on. Let's say to approve this event, I need to know a little bit more from the approver about how to proceed. So I'm going to require additional comments with that approval. So I'll pause there. I'm just going to check the chat real quick and see if anybody has questions. It looks like we're good, but feel free to go ahead and enter those questions in the chat. Oh, here we go. I see a Q&A here. So actually, I haven't tried creating an approval template within Teams before. Oh, great. I'm glad. So this will be good. All right, so let's do preview and we'll see what our form looks like here. Okay, so I've got my name of my request, and this should look familiar. Remember Megan's experience when she was filling out that kind of generic basic request? This one looks kind of like that. Something you'll notice though is that the approvers, Patty and Miriam, is grayed out. I can't change that. I can't click those X's. That's good. For your more formal processes, you want to make sure that does stay locked down if someone's submitting this request. Okay, session names required. My new choice field is not required and it's single select. I've got a start date, an end date, project lead, and notes. Okay, that looks good. At this point, I have to decide if I'm ready for my team to use this. As soon as I click publish, everybody who's a member of Project ABC will be able to use this when they use the approvals app. Okay, so let's publish. Whew. You know, it's so fun to do user group sessions because you don't have that real pressure. You can just click with abandon. It's all fine. All right, so I've pushed out that template. Now notice on my template management screen, under Project ABC, I now see that template here. If I want to add additional templates, I can go to new template. So it just looks a little bit different than it did when we first started and there was nothing, but I come right back to the same spot to do it again. All right, and then a question here from Karen. If you did have the options of taking from one account or another, how does the template or system know this? If you did have options of taking from one account or another, so I'm not sure I understand, Karen. Are you asking about the who can approve something? Or are you talking about maybe moving a template from one to another?
I would say continue forward, and as she answers, I will ping you.
Perfect. That sounds good. Yeah, we'll keep an eye out. Thanks, Shadeen. All right, so let's keep going here. We've got our one template, but I want to switch over now to Miriam. Remember, Miriam is our member of this team. So Miriam now, let's say, goes to that same team we were in before, Project ABC, goes to the Bespoke channel and starts a new conversation because now she would like to submit a more formal request along the same lines. We've put some structure around it, right? It has some bones. And as we submit these in the future, they're going to look similar from one to the next. And we're requiring the same information, gathering what we need to get started and making sure it's being approved by the people who need to approve that topic. So it already feels better, right? We've polished it and we're consistent now. So Miriam's going to look for her approvals app, and notice hers is a little bit different. Sometimes people's icons on the conversation panel aren't in the same order, or maybe they're hidden on the ellipsis based on screen size. So if one of your users doesn't see the circular arrow with the check mark, just have them click the ellipsis and search for it. So that's what Miriam's doing, and she found it here. And hopefully it worked fast enough and it's going to show up for us. Perfect. I timed that perfectly. Notice under project ABC, I now see as a member user group event request. Nice. Let's see what it does. Now I'm Miriam filling out this request. Okay, so this is going to be approvals demo. And let's see, I can't change the approvers as we already looked at. The session name is approvals are cool, y'all. There we go. We'll choose a category. I could change my mind. We'll put a date in here. It's a very long conference about approvals. Project lead, remember this is only text, unfortunately. So we're going to say that maybe Patty is the lead on this one because it's in her arena maybe. And then notes, this is a fantastic follow-up to our previous session. And send. Once again, remember the context. This one got sent through a channel message as well. There is another way to do this. It's private. So for now, we're still collaborating on this. I want people on my team to see this, and I want them to interact with it. The other thing you should notice here is that this one looks a little bit different. Remember, Miriam Graham is one of the people who can approve this request, and Miriam Graham is the one who submitted the request. So we can see now the approver side of this, where on that same message that she posted, she can now enter comments, which are required, remember, and I can say, yes, please use fund ABC for this event, right? I provide a little bit more details, then I can approve, reject, or view the details of the request. Right, I'm not going to approve it here. Instead, I'm going to pretend, Miriam has 32 different teams and there's like 100 combined channels, and she needs to figure out what approvals are waiting for her. So instead of digging through all the channels, she's just going to start work one day, go to Teams, go to her approvals app inside of Teams, and just see what's pending. Okay, so we're going to the approvals app. At the top, it says received, which is everything that's waiting on you, basically, to move forward. And we can see the status of that approvals demo is requested. Okay, and it's either me or Patty. I can see that right up front who needs to answer this. So I'm going to click on it in the approvals app this time instead of in a channel, and I can see all the details. I can see who it's waiting on. And then for my comments, I'll again say, please use fund ABC. I must really like ABC. I also have options here as the approver to cancel the request, to follow up, or to reassign. Okay, if I cancel, that means that since I'm the requester as well, that I can say, never mind, we don't need to approve this. If I follow up as the requester, I'm trying to be very clear on who gets these options. The requester can basically nudge the approver. Okay, so I could say, hey, it's been a while, Patty, can you look at this, right? Or Miriam, can you look at this? And then reassign is only available to the approvers. Okay, so if you're the approver, you can reassign and say, you know what, maybe Isaiah is the person who should approve this one. Okay, now we're not going to do any of that because Miriam is perfectly capable on this one, and she's going to say approve. So pretty simple, right? It's a form, few buttons, and now my dashboard here shows approved. Now let's go back to Megan's side real quick, and I want to also look at the approvals app. All right, click out of it and back into it. There we go. Perfect. And I want to look at the sent side of things because you just saw the received, right? And you would see a list of all of your different requests that are pending, approved, rejected, whatever you did with those. Let's look at the sent side. Now, as someone who requested a user group session idea, remember Megan made a basic request and put in Patty as her own approver, and she did send it as important. She can see that it's still requested. Now, this person might have been waiting a while, so she's going to open this up and say, I wonder what's going on. And I can see, oh, okay, it's still waiting on Patty, right? And if you do sequential approvals, you'd see, oh, this person approved, and it's now waiting on this person. All right, notice I can cancel or follow up, just like you just saw from Miriam, but I can't reassign because I'm not one of the approvers. All right, great. So let's keep going here. Now, next I want to look at that sequential topic. So we've seen one approver, we've seen two people, but either one could do it. Let's talk about a little bit more formal of an approval process. But this time I want to switch perspectives one more time. You've seen a team owner and you've seen a team member and what they're able to do. this next one is going to be the team's admin. The team's admin is the only role who can create approval requests that can be used by the entire organization. Now, I want to show you real quick, if Miriam were to go to a different team, remember that last one that we did was just for Project ABC. If she goes to product support and goes to a new conversation and goes to the approvals app, here we go. I can see one that's already published for product support, but I don't see that event request. So as people navigate from one team to another, they are restricted to the ones that were published in that space. And if Megan wanted that template that she used to be available for the entire organization, it's just not that simple, unfortunately. So you do need a team's admin to actually create that request that can be used by every team and every member of your organization. All right, so let's be that person. Let's go to the team's admin person. Here we are. This guy's name is Nate. He is the admin of this tenant and just teams. You don't have to be a global admin, just a team's admin. And we're going to go to the approvals app, just like our users. We don't do this from the team's admin center, which is kind of a surprise for people sometimes. So we're going to go to the ellipsis on the left-hand side as the team's admin, and we're going to search for approvals. Oops, if I can spell today, approvals. Okay, and I'm not seeing it right away. So let me go to get more apps. You're seeing multiple experiences of how people find and interact with this app. And maybe you're even thinking, boy, I better pin that if I'm going to use it a lot, because it's hard to get to. Let's see if we can find it here. Let's try that search again. Oh, it's being shy. Let's see. Let me just refresh here. One of those fun demo things. And while we're waiting on that, let me...
Yes, there's some comments and questions from Karen, who has followed up. Just fit it in however you see fit.
Okay. Yeah, just real quick so I can see with the customer responses you were talking about. So just for a little more context, Karen says that she thought I mentioned a scenario where there could be more than one fund to take funds from in customer responses. That's correct. Yep. And then so would the form identify only one fund or a choice? So yeah, when you do those custom responses, instead of approve or reject, you could say, make the button say fund A or fund B, and you're only able to do two options. So they would have to click on fund A or fund B. In fact, with this next template, I'll focus on finance and we'll kind of use that example. That's a good one. And then you can see how that shows to users instead of just a simple approve or reject. And then the first question there, how does the template / system know this? Yeah, you just type it in basically. And the thing to remember with this is if you wanted to do any kind of reporting or anything on this later, that the more custom people get with responses, the harder it is to see consistency and trends and things. Like if you were to do an export or some kind of report on how many were approved, how many were rejected, that gets difficult when some people call it yes and no. Some people call it past tense, approved, rejected, and some people do present, approve, reject. So sometimes I steer away from those, but when it's not really an approval scenario, that's when I get custom. And I'm like, it doesn't really make sense to have someone approve this fun thing or to reject this idea, right? We want to encourage ideas and not use those kind of strong words. So that's when I tweak it a little bit. So hopefully that helped or answered the question. All right, so now that we've refreshed, let's see if we can find approvals here. Still no, how wild. Let me just see if I can find it in a team real quick. It does not want to be demoed anymore. So that's enough, Nate. Nope, interesting. Okay, well, we'll come back to the admin experience. I'm not sure why it's not showing up for us, but it is very similar. Basically, the difference is you're going to have that ability to publish it org-wide. So for now, let's do it as Megan. If we get some time at the end, I'll go back and show you just the slight difference in the look and feel of that. So back as Megan, I'm going to the approvals app, just like the team's admin would. Okay. And, oh, you know what I can do really quickly? We can make Megan the admin. How exciting for her, right? Big day. Okay, let's find Megan. And we'll find her roles. And we'll go with a Teams admin. Okay, that may not update right away. That takes some time sometimes, so we'll see together here. All right, so I'm just going to navigate off and on. I kind of use that as my makeshift refresh. And we'll create. Let's see what we're able to do here. Okay, so it's not yet, but I'll go ahead and just spoil the surprise. Right now, notice in the upper left-hand corner of Megan's teams, she sees teams and then all the teams she's an owner of. Being an org-wide admin, a teams admin gives you a section right above teams that says org-wide, and you can publish it to everybody that way. So for us, we're just going to click on new template and let's run with that sequential approval scenario with custom responses just to see what that looks like differently. I'm not going to spend as much time on the template this time. We're just going to pick one like our reimbursement request. Okay, looks good. I like the drop down. I like the text fields. Everything's required. Perfect. Okay, we'll still go with project ABC just to get a couple in there to look at. And we'll click on done. This one is finance. That's a good description. We'll keep moving. Okay, perfect. Reimbursement type. Great. We're not going to change any of that either. Nice and easy, right? Now, remember I said reimbursement. That's a good scenario to require attachments. Let's require an attachment. And then I want to do sequential this time. I need 2 people to approve this, a tier 1, and then I need a tier 2 before it actually gets paid. So I'm going to require responses in the assigned order. Now I could let the requester specify the first person. Maybe they're going to enter someone who just needs it as an FYI. They're not really approving officially. They just need to say, okay, I saw it, right? So they could enter that themselves. I'm going to be a little stricter, and I'm going to say their direct manager must approve. Interesting. Didn't have that option before. Now I can do it in the sequential approval here. So their direct manager must do it. And then if their direct manager is missing, that's thoughtful. I can say, oh, okay, in that case, let's have Patty, who's kind of the overall person in this process, approve on the manager's behalf. All right, then, actually I'm gonna put Miriam because we have her account open and ready. And then our second approver is gonna be Patty. And kind of a similar process there. Okay, let's review. So sequential approval, first, the direct manager, whoever that is, as listed in Entra ID or Azure AD, I'm going to try to get used to saying the new one, is going to approve. So if that person is out, Miriam approves on the direct manager's behalf. Then if Miriam or the direct manager approves, then Patty approves with the final approval. Okay. Comments required. Oh, by the way, with sequential, we can't do custom responses. I forgot. So we'll still do custom responses really quickly. No comments required on this one, and preview. Okay, we'll publish. And this time I want to show you a private request. Okay, so Miriam is going to go to approvals. Just the app on the left this side, or this time. So remember all the other ones, we were in a channel, we were collaborating, we're being very transparent. This one's sensitive, right? I don't want people to see that I spent $25 on coffee and a biscuit. So I'm going to go to my approvals app and I'm going to hit new approval request. I'm not in a team. I'm in my approvals dashboard, basically. So new approval request. And now notice I've got this category I haven't seen before, org-wide. There is an org-wide template pushed out by my admin for overtime. Cool. All right. And then product support has one. Project ABC now has 2. Remember the user group we did together? Reimbursement is now available. So I'm going to choose reimbursement. Okay. And this name is going to be our new hardware. Okay. And let's see, Patty, direct manager has been set up as the approver. Okay. So Patty is Megan's Miriam's manager in this case. So Patty gets both levels. That's fun. Reimbursement type, travel, reason, airplane. I'm just kind of being silly here. And fee content, transaction date, yesterday, amount, and attachments. Remember, attachments required this time. So I'm going to add an attachment and I can choose from my OneDrive. That's great. I can upload something from my computer if I haven't put it in OneDrive yet. Or, this is cool, I can attach a link. Maybe what I want to put in the approval actually already lives on a public website, like a session abstract or a speaker bio or a press release that's already out there. I can just use a link rather than downloading or copy pasting or anything like that. Just go ahead and put the link to the resource here. But I'll say something from my OneDrive. There we go. And we'll choose this document and we'll share a link. Love that. It's not duplicating the content, right? It's just sharing a link. Okay, I'll click send. There we go. And in this weird scenario where Patty just happens to be Miriam's boss, let's see what that approval request looks like. I open that up. Here we go. And there's a step 1. Step 1 is pending a response from Patty. Patty approves, and then you can guess what it says next, step 2. And that's it. It just adds that extra level up to step 10, right? Remember, we can have 10 levels of that kind of sequential approval. All right. So I'm going to cancel this one. We're going to cancel so we can see what that looks like on our dashboard. And then we're going to really quickly do custom responses, and then we're going to wrap up a little bit. So let's go to Megan again. And real quick, this is the lightning round just to show you some custom response options. We'll go with an item application. Next, we're skipping through here because we've done it before, right? We know this, we've got it down. There we go, custom responses. This is why we're here. So instead of approve and reject, let's say fund A and fund B. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and let the requester enter this one, preview, and publish. Whew, nice, that was fast, right? Probably my fastest one ever. All right, let's try to use it. So I'm going to go back to approvals. And again, I'm going to navigate off and on. Most of the time in a realistic scenario, people aren't like pushing out a new template and then going straight to fill it out. So kind of something different for you. All right, now on my approvals app, I went to new approval request right away. Once again, my new template I just pushed out is here. I do want to note, if you are the org-wide admin, that when you push those out, those do take a little longer. The team one's pretty quick, org-wide just a little longer. So item application is my new one. We're just going to fill it out really quickly here. Let's put Miriam down. There we go, and test, and test, and test, and send. All right, switching to Miriam, the approver. Miriam, again, goes to her approvals app, or notice she does get a pop-up notification here that says Megan sent you a request. Either way, it's going to bring her here to the approvals app. So here, I'll go ahead and show you that. If I go to my activity, I click on that activity notification, it takes me to, you can see in the background, received, sent, and that dashboard. It takes you straight there. Now here, as the approver, notice instead of approve and reject, I have fund A or fund B. And I'm going to say have fun and fund A. Otherwise, it's really similar, right? Imagine being an executive who doesn't have a lot of time to dig through paperwork and figure out where you put the button on that Power App, or where you designed your form a little bit differently. Maybe you paginated it, maybe you didn't. This is really nice because approve or reject are always side by side, right? And even though I changed the options, this felt familiar. I got an activity notification. I have my approvals app I can go to. The format is the same every time. I've got the details followed by the activity or the status of it. And then my options, right? Consistency from one team to another and across the entire org. Now on my dashboard, notice when you use custom responses, it's not green approved and red reject. I've got a yellow fund A. Cool. All right, so it's right there alongside everything else. I mentioned you can export. If you want to run reports, look in the upper right-hand corner, export. So you can have that kind of auditable history, if you will, or that snapshot of what's been approved, what's been rejected over time. Now, I know we're down to our last 10 minutes here, so I do want to pivot just a little bit and talk about the admin side. Let's see if I can move my bar here. There we go. So the admin side, you've already seen that he had a little bit of a trouble getting to the approvals app himself, which is very unusual. In fact, I'm just going to try one more time because I'm a believer. Nope. Okay, I'll give up on it. So I did want to show you the back end though. So as the admin, I'm in the Teams admin center now. Remember, I didn't have to go to the Teams admin center to create the templates. That's not what we're here to talk about. Right now, the last topic I want to leave you with before we go back into how to make this successful is just your admin does have the ability to turn off approvals. So if you don't see approvals, that could be the case. All they have to do is simply toggle this one option in the Teams admin center for the approvals app, and it won't be available. Sometimes people do this just to be safe because they don't have a business use for it and nobody's asked for it. So if you don't see it in yours, just ask your admin. I do know this is available for government clients as well. In fact, we use it where I work, and I'm a government agency. So it is available. Just ask and they'll toggle that on, hopefully deploy it, and you can maybe get some training out around it as well. So now let's talk about adoption. How do we make this successful? We built it, we pushed it out to our teams. We maybe built some org-wide templates and pushed those out too. People aren't using it. Why is that? So there's 4 keys here, and this is my last slide for you that has content on it. And again, I'll give you a link here in just a moment where you can download these and maybe use them in your own conversations as you think about how can we standardize and make our own approval processes more sophisticated or consistent from one team to another. But the big thing I hope you take away from this today is that this was easy. We had 55 minutes together. I mean, we're still in the 55 minutes, and I, quickly share that I was able to publish several templates in that time. One of them I took my time on, and I had a lot of options, but really it was just point and click, right? I just had to make a bunch of decisions. What are the fields? What are the workflow steps? So on and so forth. So it was easy, and this makes it accessible to everybody, whether you're a brand new team owner who's never done something like that before, who's never built an automated process. It doesn't matter, right? You don't have to use Power Automate at all. You never go there, but you're still using that logic, that power in the back end, whether or not you know it. And then if you've never used Microsoft Forms, it's okay, right? There's only 3 question types, and that was easy to build too. If I wanted another question, I clicked add new. If I wanted to change one that came with the template, I just clicked it and typed something different. So this opens the gates. It gets us all in a place where we can consistently create those processes. So to make that successful, you need that buy-in. It's not enough to just build it and to get excited about it and make it easy for everybody. We have to discuss it with people. And so sometimes that means we sit down with the people who have an existing approval process, maybe a low impact one. Don't start with accounting, but maybe start with someone who has something fun, a nomination for an award, perhaps, that you have at your company, a recognition initiative, and sit down with the people who manage that process, who go through the nominations, and ask if they'd be willing to pilot this new approval process and see what they need from it. Do they require attachments? Are they interested in sequential approval, or can just anybody approve? You know what the options are now, so make a checklist and just have that conversation, gather the requirements, and tell them what they can expect. Now, you can build it for them, sure, and you can push it out as a team owner if you happen to be that person, or if it's org-wide, especially with an awards recognition program, the team's admin can push that out for everybody, right? So you can deliver it for them or teach them how to do it, show them this recording, or take time yourself to kind of custom tailor it and make it specific to your organization and deliver a 30 to 45-minute lunch and learn at your company. And then just increase familiarity. We all need continual education these days with Microsoft 365 because things change a lot. And so stay on top of it, see what's coming new. Like I mentioned, sequential approval is brand new to approvals. So just kind of keep building with it, playing with it, even if you're not pushing anything new out, to make sure that when a new feature is added, you're aware and you can share that with the people who wanted it and those requirements that you gathered earlier. And then fostering adoption, check in with people. They can push it out. You can have your admin build it and push it. But if people aren't using it, it's not worth anybody's time, right? And it's kind of unfortunate that all that hype was built up and people were excited, but maybe, and oftentimes this is the case, people were just nervous about it, right? They have it, it's cool, but they think about that word automation and they're like, ooh, you know what? I don't want to do this wrong. I don't want to mess something up. I don't want to get fired because I asked for money. So sometimes it takes just that check-in a week later or 2 weeks later, just to say, how's it going? What could be improved? Do you have any questions, any concerns? Have you tried to use it yet? Right. And sometimes they haven't had a chance or a real reason to, but you're showing interest and you're kind of keeping that conversation alive and making sure that that barrier to entry, even if it's just something that they have to use and not build, is really low, right? Make it comfortable to get into. And then rinse and repeat. Whatever you do, take notes about what works, what really got people excited, what kind of forms have been the most successful, who's using it the best, who are your champions, and then create some kind of strategy around that and get other people excited because you have demonstrable success already. All right, so I want to leave you with a few resources here. These are things that I use and suggest to people all the time because there's just so much to learn about Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365 as a suite, all the time. And you've learned about one very small piece of Teams today. There's so much more. So usually what I'll direct people to when there's a brand new announcement, like most recently, the hot buzz is the pricing of Microsoft Copilot. Blogs.office.com has it right on their front page right now. But what I really like about blogs.office.com is when someone wants to learn about what's new or what's changing, or what's just interesting in the world of Microsoft 365, you can go there and filter at the very top of that homepage to the product you're most interested in. So let's say you're focused on SharePoint. Go to blogs.office.com, use the product filter for SharePoint, and everything there is news about SharePoint, things that are understandable by anybody, not just technical audiences, but end users, to get them, again, excited or just aware of what's going on in that space. Now, the more technical people are going to want to write down roadmap.office.com, because this gives you the specific details about features that are coming to these apps. So let's say, I don't know, sequential approval has been announced for the approvals app in Microsoft Teams. It's announced there first, and it gives you not just the details about the feature, but it tells you who can expect it. So if you're government, it includes that filter where you can say, I just want to see what's available for my tenant. And it tells you the time frame when you can get it. So who can get it and when they'll get it. Okay. Also, these events, just like this awesome user group that we're at today, there's more out there, and a lot of them are virtual. Some of them are in person. But check out communitydays.org. That's where you can find a ton of events. It's just getting started, so it may seem a little spare right now, but it's growing quickly. And this is the site that's replacing the old SharePoint Saturday site that you may be familiar with. So those events are now being posted there. And it's a great initiative, great website, and there's lots of fun there to be found. A lot of those are free too, I'll mention. Now, the bottom two links, if you're someone who's responsible for driving adoption on a larger scale, you'll be interested in joining the Microsoft 365 Champions link there in the lower left. It's free. It's just an online community, helps you get resources and also drive and evangelize adoption in your workplace. And then lastly here, my favorite topic is getting certified. It's not so much about putting a shiny badge on your profile, but it's about telling yourself that you know the material, you know Microsoft Teams administration, you know the fundamentals of Microsoft 365, and it just validates that and gives you a little bit of a confidence boost, where when someone says, hey, so-and-so, can you build this for us, or can you find out how we can get this? It gives you that confidence where you're like, you know what, I think I can. So I love learn.microsoft.com, even if you're not going after a certification, because you can learn in the moment about the topics you care about and get that knowledge under your belt. So with the references, I promised the slides. So here are the slides. I hope my little Zoom things aren't in the way. But if you want to use your phone, you can scan the QR code there. You'll get the PDFs of all these slides with clickable links. So these references that you see in front of you are also clickable then, of course, where you can learn a little bit more about creating those org-wide templates as a Teams administrator, managing those approvals as they come and go, and then creating them from chats or channels, which is how we started this session. That link does expire August 31st. So if you're watching the recording, just make sure that you're within that time frame, or reach out to Shadid if you want to make sure that you get those after the fact. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it back to Shadid. Thank you so much, everybody.
Ladies and gents, professionals all around the world, this was an excellent, detailed presentation. And so what we're going to do is do an encore presentation of this content next Friday. And this presentation will be entered into our new delivery method, which is called Instant Vintage, meaning we have a whole vault of presentations over the years, and at any given point, we will replay this in its entirety for those who may not have seen it, or in many cases, I receive emails from people who say, well, where is the video of the demo? And so for demo heavy sessions with speakers who are friends of the program, we are extending the instant vintage to them. So congratulations, Nate, you are officially within the vault. And so I look forward to that.
Yeah, thank you.
And so on behalf of Nate, the great Chamberlain, I'm Shadidi Laser. Stay tuned for next month, third Thursday of the month. Topic to be announced. Thank you. Time is non-refundable, and you could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to spend it with us. And for that, we appreciate you. Have a good evening. Thanks, Nate.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. That was fun.
Yes. So
I was a little worried about the admin stuff there for a second, but I was like, meh, it's similar enough.
once you share your screen and find out where the comments are, it's pretty much all the same. So in many cases, we spend so much time within teams that going over to Zoom is okay, where is everything? So but it worked out. You did a great job.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me back. That was a lot of fun.
You're welcome.
We'll do it
My
again.
pleasure. Oh, definitely, definitely. All based on your availability. So I'll reach out and somewhere down the line and be on the lookout for community days, Maryland or Baltimore, as that is coming up as well.
Well, that'd be a lot of fun. Can't wait.
Yes. Okay. So enjoy the rest of your evening, Nate.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. I'll see you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.